Hey guys, on this mini training we're talking about calorie density and nutrient density, why they matter and why you should know the difference and what that will mean to you in terms of your physique, your energy and your health. Now, we want our diet to be mostly made up of nutrient dense foods. So when we talk about nutrient dense foods, let's look at two examples on the spectrum. On one end, you've got something like blueberries or blackberries, loaded with goodness and nutrients. On the other end of the spectrum, you've got something that we could say is like pasta, for example. Yes, it may have carbohydrates in it, but in terms of micronutrients, fibres, things like that, it's not necessarily stacked and loaded with goodness. It may have its place in replenishing glycogen if you are highly active, for example. So pasta's not a bad thing. But in terms of nutrient density, it doesn't sort of cut it when compared with foods like blueberries, blackberries, spinach, kale, things like that. The next thing, which I mentioned at the outset, was calorie density. Okay, so certain foods aren't very calorie dense. So if you think about blueberries, blackberries, things that are very, very low fat, because remember, fat has 9 calories per gram. So usually calorie dense food have got more fat in them. Now, again, there's a caveat because not all fat is bad. You need certain amounts of certain types of fat every day in your diet for health, hormone health and brain health and energy levels and good skin, hair and nails. So we don't want to avoid fats at all costs. It's about knowing your quantities and the types of them. So when we put these things together, let's look at it. So on one end of the nutrient dense, but not calorie dense, you've got fruits, vegetables, salads, things like that, which are very, very nutrient dense, but not very calorie dense. But then you've got other foods which are highly nutrient dense, but also calorie dense, and a prime example is an avocado. So if you think about avocado, it's loaded with goodness, but it is also a high fat food. So with avocado, as much as it's great, it's the quantity that matters. So having full avocados every day might not be the answer if you're looking to lose weight or body fat. So think about that. So avocado's good, but lots and lots of it might not be so good if your goal is fat loss or weight loss. So if we go along that spectrum, more calorie dense foods, you've got things like butter, ghee, oils, fatty cuts of meat. Even though they can actually be higher in protein sometimes, you are getting some goodness. But what we want to be doing is we want to be getting a lot of foods at the nutrient dense end of the spectrum in your diet. So foods that have got lots of goodness and are not necessarily high in calories. So think about thin-skinned fruits, strawberries, cherries, raspberries, blueberries, blackberries. Think about leafy vegetables, your spinaches, your kales, foods like that. Think about tomatoes, think about garlic, think about all the salads you would have with your meat or your fish. Plenty of those foods in your diet, because they're going to bulk up your diet, usually as well with fibre, and also as well, they're not high in calories, so you can have a lot of them because they're not calorie dense. Now, calorie dense foods you have to be careful with because it affects your overall calorie balance, and you can quite easily go over without getting your micronutrient goals with calorie dense foods, with nutrient dense foods. So making sure on your meals you have some nutrient dense foods, like I've always said, which is some salads, some vegetables on your plate with your meals. Obviously you want to prioritise your protein as well, but that's where we try and as much as possible get lean proteins. So your fishes, lean cuts of meat like your turkeys, your chicken, lean beef, lean mince, things like that form the bulk of your protein intake. But cheeses, if you're not going to have like protein cheese, lower fat versions, cheese again use sparingly because it's quite a calorie dense food, even though it is good for protein. but always try and get leaner proteins most of the time. You can have fatty meats, cheeses, you can have butter in small amounts in your diet, because these all have some compounds which are good for you, but it's the amounts. So calorie dense foods, you need to trim them right down as a minor portion of your overall food intake. Lots and lots of your nutrient dense foods for health, longevity, energy, and to keep you feeling fuller, because like I said, they tend to have fibre in them as well, the nutrient dense foods. So quick bit there, 5-minute training, nutrient dense and calorie density, and how you need to factor those into your overall picture of your diet.